everything is frozen, try scraping it off with fragments of silicon.
Welcome to another episode of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam, and joining me as always are my distinguished colleagues, Gollix and Petty Fan.
Oh, man.
Oh man, I'm distinguished.
I mean, there are other adjectives that could be used, but, we are in company. Anyway, right, so let's get to the news. Petty, why don't you start us off? Why don't you give us an update on your cat?
Well, my mom's cat, but...
You know what I mean.
Well, a lot of things have happened, and not good things. Saturday, I guess, morning, she got herself trapped underneath a media center we have downstairs, and we spent 12 hours looking for her. So that was fun. Partly because of that, we got... I don't know if any of you know what a tile, Bluetooth tracker is. We got one of those to put on our collar, so we can't lose her anymore.
Unless she gets rid of her collar, which some cats can do.
Yeah, but it really depends. Hopefully, she's never really been one to get her collar off, so...
I was wondering, because we had a couple of cats, of the cats that we had were very stubborn about that.
Yeah. And Monday was a very big problem because my mom and I went out for some errands, and then we had sister watching Garcia, and we had sis come help us bring some stuff in, and we came back to find Garcia what looks like she passed out trying to run into a trash bag.
Oh no.
So she seems to be okay-ish, but this morning we had to take her again to a different vet because she wasn't acting quite right. Turns out she has a severe ear infection, and we need to see about getting that clear up to before we can check if there are any neurological problems. So hopefully it's just a really bad ear infection and nothing else goes wrong. She is using the litter box on her own, though, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And yeah, hopefully, this week is the worst week we have. As far as other gaming things go, I have for the Digimon card game, I have the All-Force Vidramon starter deck coming, because it has cards I can use in my various other decks, so yay! The game store I go to has I don't know if any of you've seen the Bandai's Transforming Digimon figures, the die-cast ones. They have a Duramon that changes into Alphamon, which, if it's still there, I may see about grabbing. Because I'm apparently the weird kid who likes the X-Antibody Digimon cards.
Well, the next set for the card game is going to be about that, so we'll see.
Yeah, and, well, in Japan, the next set we get will have the start of the X-Antibody madness.
Well, we're just a little bit short.
Yeah.
A little bit behind schedule. The goal is still to sync them up again when, there's not huge supply system problems, I think.
Yeah, and something pandemics and all that jazz. As far as Final Fantasy goes, we have not been able to go into the new Savage raids for Pandemonium yet because life sucks, and because of the servers, some of the group usually they're getting on just as they get out of work. So we would either need to find some way to push raid back a couple hours, which because people have actual jobs, that's not really an option. Or they would need to find somebody to log in, at least get them started logging in for them while they're at work, and hopefully they don't get kicked out. So we're just kind of waiting for the server issues to kind of resolve, and hopefully, we can get people together and actually start raiding. I did start playing a little bit of Monster Hunter Rise, and oh god, I am out of practice. I might have failed the first hunt.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Not in a good way, but still impressive.
This is what happens when you don't play a Monster Hunter game for almost a year. Especially on a different system than what you're used to.
Yep. I mean, Rise has a lot more verticality, as I understand.
Yeah, they get it from 4.
Anyway, anything else?
Not really.
All right. Galax, you're up.
Comparatively uneventful. My car has been making an unpleasant noise, but I called the people who do maintenance on it, and they say that it's probably just the heat shield. And it's probably not a problem unless it starts being worse, so...
Until the smoke starts billowing out, you're fine, right?
Yeah, well, they said that if it's loose, it's not a problem. And they'd look at it next time I bring it in for a oil change, which won't be too long, I guess. Work has been interesting. Keep changing exactly how much mask we have to wear and when, but, it's probably best to be safe.
Yep.
Actually started playing Super Robot Wars 30.
Okay.
Been having some fun with that, although as usual, I'm somewhat slow at it because I'm really bad with decision paralysis, and there's a lot of decision about what to upgrade and when, so other than that, not much. Legends Arceus comes out soon, and I'm looking forward to that. So
I think it's in a little over a week.
Yeah, thereabouts.
They just put out a new trailer today, if I recall correctly.
A new trailer with not much new actual stuff in it.
Yeah,
that's concerning. Keep in mind that this is Game Freak's big departure from.
I know. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I ordered my copy from Amazon because I'm a sucker for video game fashion options, and Amazon has a unique Garchomp outfit.
All right. I guess it's my go.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Mostly over my illness, though throat nodes keep threatening to swell, which, cough syrup is keeping under control. Otherwise, fine. It's weird. Anyway, let's see. Still waiting for my Xbox controller.
Is that the one you ordered weeks ago, or?
Yes.
Oh, God.
I got, apparently it's supposed to be coming in the next 3 days, and if I don't, I will contact the seller about a refund. So, keep in mind, it's fucking January, so prioritizations, aren't as stringent as they were, say, a month ago. Let's see. I guess in terms of gaming, this has been a week of RPGs, kind of like the polar opposites, playing Mary, Skelter 2, and Risen. More on those on Sunday. let's just say I liked one a whole lot more than I liked the other. Let's see. I guess in post-show news, Kevin will be joining us once again after his extended break. So hopefully he feels recharged and all that. And yeah, that's about it. Not much news this week. Sometimes that happens. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week are Nick Wright, Peter Stolmeier, and Kim Thompson of Wacko Media.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? We also have Leo Thompson back there.
What?
He snuck in. What?
Yeah, he snuck in. We found him in one of the cargo holds, and we're like, "Okay, your punishment is you have to come talk with us."
Yeah.
All right.
So we have quite a few people this week. So let's see. Right. So how we like to get started on this show is we like to get to know the people behind the game studio and all that, and we ask this particular question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
I can go ahead and start for myself. So everybody that answers this question is probably dating themselves by their first system. But when I was a little kid, it was already a few years old, but we had the Atari 2600. So I was all about that. I kind of grew up with that and lusted after the NES. And so I kind of carried forward with that. I got an NES, SNES, moved on, and kind of kept video games with me for a long time until at some point I kind of slowed down a little bit, and all I was really playing was things like Grand Theft Auto and like Tony Hawk series. And I always keep an eye on the side-scrolling beat-em-ups and the like Metroidvanias. So those are kind of my favorite genres. So video games have kind of always been with me. And as far as how I got to work on it, it's kind of a combination of all the things that I've done in my life, both on a personal level and like in my day job. Because I worked for software companies. I was a software engineer. And kind of knowing the product lifecycle and everything was something that helped me prepare for what I've got an opportunity to do now with Peter and everybody else here. And working as I've also been a writer and a cartoonist, and did some videos. Leo Thompson and I also co-created that Sci-Fi Guy. So we were on Channel Awesome back in the day, and then later on we were on YouTube. So yeah, just kind of being a writer and being able to develop all those various skills. I think it put me in a pretty good spot for this opportunity when it came along.
Enough, Nick. Mine is slightly backwards from the beginning of yours. So then the NES was my first like gaming system that I had that I really got into. Then my uncle gave me his Atari 2600. After I had already started on the NES, and I went backwards a step. With a huge library of games. I just had a ton of fun with that. I guess I also played a lot of Commodore 64 games back then too. Oh, yeah. That's probably where I started, honestly, was Commodore 64, then Nintendo, then Atari 2600.
Gotcha. Did you play Skate Rock?
I feel like I did.
Skate Rock and Impossible Mission on the Commodore 64 were like my favorites.
Impossible Mission, definitely.
Yeah. Stay a while, stay forever.
Okay.
I guess I'll go next. So my dad was one of those dads who was like, but we have a computer at home. You don't need a console. So I cut my teeth on some of the older computer games like Keen and Doom and like just all of the old ones that I didn't really sink my teeth into like gaming until Final Fantasy VIII, and I fell in love with the story aspects of that and got really heavily into the RPG style of gaming. And that was like in high school, I guess. And then I played casually right up until I got to about the God of War series and realized that, even though my hand-eye coordination wasn't as developed as people who played games since a child, I'm actually starting to get good at this. And stories are some of the biggest driving factors for how long or how interested I get into games now. So
I'm just saying, don't trash talk Commander Keen.
I
played a lot of hours in the Commander Keen back in the day.
Yeah, the story was
freeware.
good.
Well, shareware, right? Not freeware.
certain episodes were. Like the first and the fourth, if I'm remembering correctly.
Seems right.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, granted, I was like 8 at the time, so good is relative.
Yeah, that it worked at all would have been good for you. I have. I'm glad I'm coming up last because mine is a little bit mix of everybody. I did start with the Atari, just like Nick did. My favorite one on that was Q*bert and The Empire Strikes Back. Those are my two favorite games on
I never
that.
got to play the Empire.
But to share like, how did you get into this? I've got a memory from that time that you guys will like. 1986, the Nintendos were really hard to come by. My parents weren't buying any, and we lived out in the woods, and there's kind of a mix of income. So our neighbors had a little bit more than we did, and they had an NES, of course. And one of the brothers accidentally knocked over a Mountain Dew, didn't realize it, and an entire 2-liter of Mountain Dew poured into the NES. And they sold it to us for $5, and my brother and I went in with alcohol, and we wiped off every single connection until we booted up Super Mario Brothers. So that's my NES memory, is actually getting the stupid thing to work. And I don't know what happened, where it went, where it is now, but yeah, after we cleaned it, we were able to get the hottest toy of the year for $5.
That explains a lot about you, Peter.
Yeah,
That's
I thought
fantastic.
you'd like that.
Yeah.
I was really more of a PC gamer, but back in the day, at least the very primitive BBSs I was hanging out in didn't really talk about the good games. I didn't know there were good games, and I mean that. So I played a lot of Leisure Suit Larry because I really liked the story, just like you were saying, is I played it because I liked the adventure, and I didn't know there were good games like King's Quest and stuff. I didn't find out about it until relatively recently, and it didn't occur to me until a couple of days ago that I can play those games. Nobody will stop me, so I will probably be doing a playthrough of those classic Sierra games sometime soon.
Good luck. They're hard.
I have walkthroughs, man. I ain't afraid.
I have many a memory of King's Quest and its brutality.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'm like, but anyway, so I suppose to zero in a bit more specifically on my first question here, how did you all come together for this current endeavor that we're about to talk about?
We tried to do it live.
It was, man, that's sort of a weird, long.
It was a journey.
Start with your wedding, Leo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. Talking to some random guy who crashed into my wedding reception, and
because we met through high school, but we grew closer during Dragon Con. So we had our wedding reception at one of the Dragon Con hotels, the Hyatt. And it was a costume wedding reception. And Peter happened to be there, and he literally was just like following the costumes.
Well, what you said it was weird being in that hotel and it not being Dragon Con, and then like a guy dressed as Superman walks by and he's like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I went. It's weird not seeing any costumes here. I'm serious. Like I was on TV. I was like, "There's weird not seeing any costumes here. What the hell?" And I went and found out what was what. I even knew him actually. I was dressed as a game show host at the time because I had gotten hired to do freelance game show hosting for a business conference where I had call-in buzzers, and I was entertaining the kids while they were talking business during their nighttime party. So when we wrapped up with that, I tracked down where all the costumes were going, and that's where me and Leo met. And I was a fan of that guy, and I was a fan of the sci-fi guys. So we started talking at that point.
And then I ran into you at another convention, and you had told me about Artemis.
Yeah, that was Timegate. And I mentioned to you Artemis, the bridge simulator.
And you told me that you wanted to get just a group of people together because you had done your own little show. You had built a set of a bridge, spaceship bridge, and you just wanted to get some friends together and play it on your bridge. And I was like, "Oh, we could film that."
So then I made a campaign, which was called Lucidity, and it was very similar to this. And we actually filmed it for real with 6 different cameras over a couple of days, and tried to make it happen. And that's where everybody got involved. That's how I knew when I called these guys they would know what the project was, because they had basically run the dress rehearsal in real life, and now I'm trying to do it in VR. The reason I didn't finish that project was because another friend of mine got together with me, and we formed a VR company, and we started making making business to business VR for training and stuff like that. And I had a choice. I could either focus on making that company happen, or I could finish editing this thing. And I worked on that company for 6 years, and now finally I'm free again. And I'm like, well, I know how to do VR now. So I was like, why not do it digitally? That way I can share it with more people.
Okay. How close was the original project to completion before it had to be dropped?
Well, I do have the footage. I just need to add the special effects.
So we filmed the live portion. What we did, I say, was just as quote unquote real as any reality show you see on television. Like the
Maybe
scenarios were somewhat planned out, but all of us that were in it were just reacting off of our gut instincts.
Yeah, we played a character, but we were essentially playing a game. You know, it was kind of like LARPing almost.
Yeah.
But then it would be the idea was that it would be put together later with some CG stuff and some effects and everything. Look real slick, but
anytime I was the captain, anytime I would sort of talk to the front of the room as if there were like a screen there and an alien, and one of the guys running the game would, answer my questions or whatever we said. And then the idea was, okay, now we put someone in makeup and your lines are this, this, and this, because that's what plugs into the live portion.
I will say we had some really good makeup on the live stuff too.
Yeah. And the bridge isn't shabby, actually. It's pretty good looking as it is. But yeah, I would say, so to answer your question differently, I'd say about probably 55% of what's necessary to finish it.
Yeah. Hey, that bridge was equally as good as anything on Andromeda.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
Yeah, and then essentially, when it came time to do this as a game, Peter wanted some help to flesh out everything, so we brought on myself and Kim and brought Leah back as writers to help flesh out and James, absolutely, who's unfortunately not here, but he's a very, very strong contributor to the project for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's also there from the beginning.
Yeah, I suppose before we delve deeper into the nuts and bolts of the game development here, we should talk about what this is beyond, a, let's say, VR remake of an unproduced sketch.
Mm-hmm.
What is this game?
Well, what we're creating, or what we're trying to create, what we are creating is a VR holo novel. Kind of like the idea of in Star Trek where you'd go to the holo bridge and you would act out as a character. That's the idea that we are pulling in. You go onto the bridge and you are the captain of this ship and there are other characters who help support you, but you have the choices. You can do whatever you can do, and how you solve the challenges is completely up to you. There's definitely more than one option that will get you through that door. There are definitely more than one option to do anything, and what choices you make matter.
Right. But unlike say Mass Effect, who had lots and lots and lots of branching choices, we're still telling you a story. We're telling you a novel. So there are many ways to get through the door, but you still have to go through the door. It's kind of we're trying to kind of merge the two of them. So at the end of it, you feel like you've experienced a tale, but you've experienced a tale the way you want it to go. So do you want to open the door or do you want to blow it up with a grenade? Those are the kinds of choices that you have available to you.
Those are certainly two different choices. Anyway, so the full title of this game, which we can reveal here for the first time, is Shuko's Son, a Lucidity holo novel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you can go into what Shuko's Son is at this time, but I suppose it doesn't hurt to ask nonetheless.
I think we could tell you quite a bit, actually. I'll let somebody else explain it. It is Shuko's son.
Shuko, sorry.
Who wants to give it a try?
So essentially, this is the mission that you're signed up for. You have a team already when you go into it. You're going to the star system called Shuko, and it's there's a little bit of some surprises that are in store for what the actual sun's involvement is in it. But you're really exploring this new system. You're working with these inhabitants in there. There's some societies in there that are have different interactions that you can go on missions for. And the path that you're on is looking for a specific person, and as you go through this system and explore it, then you're going to pick up new clues that are going to lead you to new places.
Okay. And are you playing as a specific character, or is this personage that we are seeing the eyes through just an avatar?
We're not going to address it in the experience because we want you to bring you with you. That is serious. So it's not just a silent protagonist. It is you are the one that is going, and the life, your history that you're bringing with you is who the captain is.
And I was going to say, it's one of the great things about VR is that you are looking through your own eyes. You are moving your hands to do the different things.
Yeah, it definitely has a different feel than standard silent protagonist. It's a lot more immersive using the VR format.
Yeah, the way we see it, if we told you what you were doing, that would be immersion breaking. So we go, hey, I'm sure you've done this before. Go ahead, right? That's a different wording than your history as a grizzled space marine will allow you to. Like we are actually writing it as if the person coming to it is a real person, a person that has a long history and can figure things out on their own.
Okay. And what level of VR immersiveness are you looking for here? Is this an experience where it lasts 30 minutes? Is this something that maybe more in depth, like you can look all around? Or is this full-on room scale VR?
It is room scale VR, and I am aiming for probably about 30 minutes at a time if I can help it, because that's where people are comfortable. We're viewing each sector, each area has a chapter in a novel, so each chapter will be anywhere from half an hour. Well, if you speed run it, I know who I'm talking to here. So if you speed run it, who the hell knows? But it'll take you maybe half an hour, or it could take you a couple of hours if you do want to walk around and push every single button, because we will have many blinky flashing buttons to experience. But the actual goal, like if you're the kind of person that wants to explore, that's what we're talking about how you make it what you want. If you're the kind of person that wants to explore, we have lots to explore. If you just want to go in there and shoot them, you can go in there and shoot them, and that doesn't take a lot of time to do so, and then you're not penalized for it. So we're aiming for probably half hour, 45 minutes, but it'll depend each individual person how much time they want to spend in it.
And when you're talking about immersive world, like how big, Peter, you are doing an amazing job in programming this thing, like being able to look outside of the starship and to watch all of the different ships go by, and like you're in space, and it's pretty awesome.
I am actually hoping that other people notice the way that I've done this. I've taken. I recently went all the way to Disneyland specifically to take notes. That's what I'm going to tell the IRS for real. And thought about how they present worlds to you. How do they give you those moments of real immersion? And I tried to implement those as if my virtual world was a real world. So I basically have VR in my VR, yo. So there's other techniques that I'm using that I'm hoping other people might pick up on, especially like looking out of the screen and seeing things happening around you.
Okay. And how are you accounting for potential motion sickness issues?
Mm-hmm. With motion, basically the way I see it is that the consensus is there is no consensus on what the motion is. And what that means is you do have to give them everything. You have to give somebody the ability to teleport. You have to give them the ability to walk fast, walk slow. You have to give them the ability to twist and turn for either at 45-degree snapping angles or smooth, or they can just physically move their body. Each person has a slightly different feel for how they like things, and that might change game to game. So the best I can do is get my frame rates high, which luckily they're doing all right, and give you a menu that gives you as many options as I can think to give you for comfort.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like it's just some people are unable to adjust, unfortunately.
Yeah, we actually have an in-game situation where it's kind of you're set up in like a cargo bay type area, but it's been converted to a bridge, and you're looking out, and the bay doors are open, and if your ship is floating around near planets and ships that stuff out there, it can get pretty dizzying. So there is an option to be able to shut the bay doors. So we just had to build in some accessibility options in there to keep people from getting sick.
You guys haven't seen that yet. My team hasn't seen it yet, I don't think. But I've programmed in where the characters do it for you. If you tell people to go into battle, and I know it's about to get twisty turny, they'll actually say closing the blast door, and it will close. And if you're a person that's more comfortable, you can push the button and say nope, and open them right back up again. Those are the kind of comforts. Another thing that we're doing, instead of doing an adjustment for height, is I'm kind of building everything where it should be reachable if you're 4 feet tall or if you're 6'1". Like all the buttons and mechanics should be reachable. But then the actual interactivity, there's a dial on the side that you can turn, and it will bring the hollow projector down, so things don't scale up or down. That would be immersion breaking, but it will adjust to your height. So if you're sitting or if you're standing, you actually can just change it, and then everything else should feel natural because it's already at the right spot. Kind of like how there's a light switch on a wall and just about everybody can reach it.
And
another sort of thing about that is we also have, like we said, it's play it how you want to play it. There's a lot of instances where, like, okay, there's an away mission. Do you want to go down yourself and Captain Kirk it and get all up in the action, or do you want to manage the mission from the bridge, and let your crew handle that? And that's definitely also plays into how comfortable are you.
Yeah, if you're not feeling it, you can just send somebody else. That is a good stealth comfort level. You're right about that.
And one thing I'm really wondering about is, given that this is a space exploration game, are you going to be faced with scenarios that are in low grav or indeed zero gravity?
Tempting. There is at least one chapter where you have the option to go outside the ship. And that is your choice. So you can send somebody else if you're not comfortable with that. If you are, it's the good old handhold, lone echo, grab the hull and pull yourself. Probably, since I haven't designed it yet, I'm not sure if we'll get rid of gravity or not. But zero gravity does look great in VR, so probably.
Okay, it makes sense. And so, what about your crew? Who are the people that are serving under you?
Peter, you've known the characters the longest.
You guys know these characters. You can talk about them.
Well, we have Nia Thal, our hotshot pilot, who is not quite human. I should say not human. I hedge my bets. I'm sorry. She is not human. She's one of our alien characters. And then we have Derek Carroll, who is our scanning specialist. And then Dan is our, I don't want to call him a space rogue, but he's the go-get-em on the ship.
He's our acquisitions expert.
Yes.
Yeah, he's acquisitions, and Derek is recon.
Yeah, and there are some other characters that will come and go that you will get to know.
Yeah, but those are the crew that are with you on every adventure. And
actually, there's one other where we're forgetting about poor DC because we haven't given him anything to say yet. There is a robot that runs the ship for you that's also on the bridge that you can talk to.
Essentially, robot butler.
See, I was just trying to be coy about him because I love this character. I think he'll be very interesting for people to meet.
Like, does he have like a faulty personality or something?
That's a plot point, actually. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I don't think we can quite answer that.
Yet somehow I would be less than surprised if that ended up being the case. I mean, it's a grand tradition from like Marvin the Paranoid Android to HK-47.
Indeed.
Indeed. So, getting into the combat aspects of the game, is it melee, long distance, both?
Potentially none. We do give you a gun because guns go pew pew, but you do not need to use it at any time. In fact, you can literally leave it on the ship if you choose to do so.
By which means that if you do not shoot that thing, you will have to figure out another way around that thing. But it's a very interesting concept of how we've got the gun working, of where it will shoot organic things, but how it interacts with non-organic things is different.
That is it a energy weapon or is it a ballistic weapon?
It's an energy weapon, so when it passes through things that are mostly water, it conducts with them and zaps them. If it goes through something that is not mostly water, it's more concussive. In fact, we happen to be at a good spot. If anybody's watching the video after this, there's a robot, and you pull out the gun, you shoot it, and it falls over. If you don't want to do that, you can actually bypass him by just sneaking around in this particular example, but there's other times you can interact with people in different ways if you want to, or you can shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the overall thing you seem to be going for is choice.
Mhm.
Absolutely, and that's why we're calling it a holo novel. Of it's a story, but how you get there is your choice.
For me personally, the more I watch stuff, the more mellow I get over time. So I watch things, I'm like, oh, come on, guys, just work with Boba Fett. You don't have to shoot him. Like, so I make that an option for you. Or you might be like, it's Boba Fett, and pull out a gun. Like, I understand a lot of people like to do that, so that is an option for them. But we're kind of making something that you don't have to do that if you don't want to, and you can still be satisfied in your conclusion. But you gotta think it through.
And let me see here. So, how much of the ship here can you explore?
It's mostly going to be. Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. We're making set pieces as we go, and you can explore every inch of those set pieces.
I will
Like,
say
yeah.
that, yeah, our ship is like almost all engine, so there's going to be kind of limited places that you can go. Like I mentioned earlier, you're kind of set up in like a cargo bay type area as a battle bridge. But then there are other places in the ship that you'll have to go in order to solve some puzzles. And like Peter said earlier, you can there's a place where you're going to be going outside of the ship. But the real actions, I think, is going to be on the away missions.
And but as we make each one of those, the intention is to make them always available. So if you decide in the middle of a thing that you want to go in deeper into the ship, once we've made it, we're not going to stop you from doing that. You'll be able to go all the way and look at that giant engine, and it's too huge for the ship. So you're going to be looking at it from a very small pressure vessel. But once we've built it, you'll be able to see it, and we're never going to stop you from being able to do that unless there's, I don't know if the plot calls for there to be a pole in the ship, then you can't do it anymore. But we're not going to lock it off once it's created.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in terms of planetary travel, are you looking to do it by, let's say, by ship or by teleporter?
The way our technology works is you'll be taking our ship, you'll be taking Lucidity to the different planets around the Shuko system.
Oh, and we have a teleporter from the ship to the surface.
Mm-hmm. A really cool one.
And it's the way we've developed it is it's really neat in VR, like the way that we've implemented it.
Yeah, so there's the short range, there's short distance travel, and there's long distance travel. And for short, you use regular ion engines to fly around, and then for long, you actually use the same folding technology that lets you teleport places. So the ship itself just makes a portal and flies through it when it needs to go somewhere. But we're doing something that's at least a little bit unique in that we are doing one system. You're going to be able to fly around and visit different planets in the same solar system, which hardly ever gets done in science fiction like this.
Right, and in relation to that, will you have to take into account the environment of each individual planet or satellite or whatever you can explore?
As in, yeah, I mean, if it's not suitable for life, you're not going to be able to get to it, and there will be places that are like that. There's not going to be a fail state, so we're not going to throw you someplace and, oh, you forgot your helmet. We're not going to do that.
Now you're dead.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, you do have to figure out different ways of going. There's at least one place that is requiring a helmet where you have to wear it. You hear your own breath, and kind of like Metroid, where you see your own reflection in the glass, that kind of thing. That obviously I can't do that because I don't know who's in the helmet, but I can do the breath and the glass and things of that nature. But we're not going to do that too often, I don't think.
Right. And how long are you looking to make the game, if that's been determined? Like how many chapters are there going to be and all that?
13 chapters plus prologues and codas.
Mm-hmm. And are you looking to release all the chapters at once, or is this going to go into like an early access?
I'm not. That's still to be determined. I'm not the biggest fan for early access. So my plan right now, the only push is, well, I say I because my writing staff has been helping me write all of this dialogue and make this universe robust. And it's actually on the screen again. You can see that we're putting it in as we go. But I have to build it inside the program itself, and I'm hoping to get a full playable demo done by February 1st, and then have a pretty version of it that I can put up on Steam 3 months after that, which will just be one chapter, basically a sample chapter. And depending on if we can get some traction, we'll be able to add more chapters on as we go. I don't plan to release any more chapters after the demo unless the demand is, because I can be an old man about this stuff. People can be like, early access, bro, do it. And if I get that, I will. But if I don't, then I hope to release all of the chapters all at once.
Okay. And how far along is the game in terms of actual development?
Trying to calculate it. Yeah, you guys answer because I'm
he's doing math.
Like the writing, we have our overall story. We've got solid tractions on multiple chapters. The tech side is all Peter. So it's going as fast as Peter can put it together and make it work.
And as I create this demo, I'm creating every single thing I do is useful in other chapters. Obviously, all of Buffalo, you reuse it over and over again. So the more complex this gets, the easier it will become to make the other sectors of space. One of my background is not coding. My background is creating environments. So that will be all that will be left once the game works. And what I mean by that is, can you talk to people? Can you make choices? Does it remember those choices? Is the save system working? Can you hear the audio binaurally? That kind of thing. Is the frame rate okay? Once all of those are built, then it will just be a question of taking the time to implement the new ideas into the system. And that's why I paused, because I'm so worried about getting this one done. I don't know how long each one will take. You will have to wait and see. But I will have an answer for you once this demo phase is passed.
Okay. And in terms of the actual VR release, are you targeting a specific headset?
Just PC, which means that the Oculus Quest 1 and 2 will run. I'm not planning on making it mobile, although it is possible. I've run a couple of tests. It does work. It's not my intent. I am running it personally on a Cosmos, but I also have a Vive Pre I'm testing it on. So I lean heavily towards Steam, but it will work on anything that can plug into a PC.
Yeah, that's about what I figured, given what you're aiming for. Especially with, the way Facebook has been running, I guess, meta now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into that because I know where the money is. The money is in Quest. It's in mobile, and I put a lot of thought into that. And I'm like, I can make that work, but I literally don't want to. I want my game to be a certain way, and I can come back to Quest. I really super can. So I'm making the game that I want to play, and then later on we will port it over if there's demand. And there's a possibility. You never know. People might play it and like it, and then we do a Quest version.
So yeah, I think it's phase 1, finish the game for PC, and then maybe we'll see.
And Peter, you've said all along that the reason why you're making it for PC is because of the technology that like the quality that you're able to put into it.
Yeah, there's certain lighting techniques that I want to use that the PC lets me do. I mean, basically what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to diss mobile headsets. I'm trying to explain why, if I'm going to make a game, if I'm going to write a holo novel that I want to play, I should probably make it how I want to play it, and then worry about being able to port it over, which is not the best advice. You really should start mobile and go up, because you can always upscale things. But I've actually made the conscious decision not to support mobile. Come at me, bros.
I mean, I guess you could frame it as a battle of art versus capital here. Since, this seems to be a project that, you want to make. You want to make this for people and have them experience it rather than, what would make the most money for a VR project.
Right. Without actually dissing Quest. Quest is a great headset. Quest 1, 2, and when 3 comes out, they're all great headsets. Yeah, you've nailed it. It doesn't quite reach my vision yet.
There's no harm in saying that, because the Quests, being mobile VR helmets, have certain compromises, and that also extends to the PlayStation VR that, full-on PC VR doesn't have. That is neither good nor bad. It's just what is.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are feeling me on this. It's just what is. People make PC games all the time and don't worry about consoles, so that's where we're at.
And that being said, have you determined a price point for the game yet?
Not yet. Mainly due to we're still working on the game. I have to do more research into being a independent Steam developer before I set that price.
Makes sense.
I imagine that it will be closely along industry standards is probably the best answer we can give.
Actually, I'm gonna boost that from the next time somebody asks me. That's exactly right. It's industry standard, for real. It'll be what the industry will set for an experience like this.
It's like when you go to apply for a job and it says competitive salary.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess my final question is, have you been keeping an eye on the PlayStation VR 2?
Only because I keep an eye on everything. Have you guys been looking at the PlayStation VR 2? I don't know if I shared it with you.
No, I have not.
Yeah, that's my thing, man. So yes, I have. It looks like a good headset, and I don't mean to diss the PlayStation, but what I really like, the best feature on the new headset is USB-C. So maybe I can use it on the PC.
I had that same thought. Was that I wonder how long it'll be before someone gets that thing working on a PC.
At 0 time, I think it will work on day one. Honestly, it is a nice headset. It's got some nice numbers to it that are in the zone. So yeah, maybe we'll make this a PS5 game. I mean, yeah, I don't see why not, because it meets the graphical standards that I'm already setting for myself. You got to change, you got to change some things, but that might happen.
I mean, people seem to be really excited for the PSVR 2. So hopefully,
yeah, and they'll be hungry for content. You are right about that, and it's not the same thing as mobile. It does have a little bit more oomph. I have made this game as efficient as I know how, and it's actually pretty good. So I'm pretty confident I can do it. It's just a question on if and when.
And right, I'll see if my colleagues here have any additional questions for you.
I think I'm good. It looks interesting. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting project. And yeah, I wouldn't. Mobile VR is not the same as like actual PC VR, so I definitely see where you're going with that.
The main difference really is lighting and pixel density, though. So I've got questions for you then. If you were in the hot seat, each one of you, if you were in the hot seat, how good and what style would you use to captain a ship of this kind?
I think that would depend on the circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make one. You're not getting out of this. Okay, let's say. Let's say a alien prince has raced his starship to you and is begging to dock with you because his father is forcing him to marry somebody else. And you know the other people very, very well. And you know that the father isn't going to like that. What would you do?
Let him dock.
Yeah, I guess.
I would probably try and verify his claims, but in the meantime, I would probably
This actually, right off the top of our head, this is actually a good example of the kind of experience we're hoping to bring you. Because if you're hesitant and you're like, I don't know if I want to let this dude dock, you may be right. You may be right. This guy may need to go back and deal with this, and you can actually do that investigation before you let him dock. Is kind of the idea that we're going with.
Right.
Like, or alternatively, we could have him under guard.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Or you could,
There
you
are
could
many
shoot
ways-
his ship, or you can shoot his pursuers, or you can
shoot
talk
him.
with him. Yeah, exactly.
there are many ways to play it.
Indeed. And there are repercussions depending on your choices.
yeah.
But those aren't necessarily good or bad repercussions. They're just different results.
The question
Yeah,
is, how well do you think you
I'm
could do?
in our current D&D, in our current Pathfinder game, which is like D&D, I'm actually royalty in that, so I end up having to make decisions a lot, and I usually take longer than I should. Like, it's not as long in game necessarily, but out of game, I tend to have a hard time making hard decisions.
So
I think
the
it's
answer
probably
to
a
your
good idea to
previous
think
question-
about your things.
I
Think about
suppose
the
it.
answer to your
also
previous
depends
question
what
is
the
it's gonna
AI is
take you-
forget after 15 seconds.
When you ask how long the game will be, for you, it's going to be a really long session. It's probably going to be an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not doing that thing where there's a clock counting down. Make a choice now. Do it. Or at least maybe not most of the time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, unless we think of a
Unless we
cool
do.
way to present it, and yeah. So that's that. So the question was though, how do you think you would do? So how do you think you would fare if you were the captain, and what style would you use?
I'm like, probably quick thinking. Like, because after all, it's just a game.
Mm-hmm. So a man
See,
of
I have a
action.
hard time with it's just a game.
I'm like,
Yeah. I'm the kind of guy who's always nice to NPCs because I don't want them to be mad at me.
We are doing our best to make this a game in which both of those styles are completely valid. Talk
This
to
is
that
not how my
NPC, learn
game
his
is
name,
based
go
on
home with him, or shoot him. Shoot him because you're stunning him anyway. He won't shut up, so you shoot him, and then you move on. You never learn his name. These are two valid options that we're hoping to provide to you, and that's what we mean by holo novel. So it's not every choice you make is like super impactful. It's that you get to where you're trying to get to in the style that you like.
yeah, it sounds like, well, a lot of CRPGs I played.
Yeah, it's kind of got a choose your own adventure kind of a feel to it.
Mhm.
But it's all heading toward the same ultimate destination.
But in a legally distinct copyright way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's just file those serial numbers off.
I guess. Right. So, I suppose my last question about the project at this particular moment in time is about the music soundtrack, if there is indeed any.
I'm using a temp track right now because I find it helps when developing the game. It's funny enough, my writing staff has been all text. They haven't really listened to much of it. What I have now is a little too Mass Effect-y for my taste. It's the hope to do some new wave synth stuff, but I haven't. None of us have had the time to research and find some good tracks that we can use.
That'll matter. I mean, that will be we haven't gotten to that bridge. We'll make those choices, because I know a fair amount of musical artists that might be interested in contributing. We might end up going the route of, buying, royalty-free things that match the tone we're looking for. just not exactly there yet.
Yeah. But new wavy is what we're hoping for. If we can swing it, some indie artists that can work with us to make the theme, and then we'll fill in the gaps with some similar-ish tracks. It's my hope. Like maybe we'd be able to release an album on it. The reason I even think in that direction is a good friend of mine down in Orlando does a lot of indie game festivals, and he was saying that it is possible. He knows the secret tricks to make that happen. So music is not my forte, but the desire to make it good is on the list. So if you know any good synthwave, let us know.
Like, nothing comes to mind offhand.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, right. So I suppose I've run through my gamut of questions, and it sounds like my friends here have as well. So, I think this is where we'll conclude for the time being. The game is Shuko's Son, a Lucidity Hollow novel. It is coming to Steam for its VR system and the various other headsets that are PC compatible as well. I don't think there's a Steam page for it yet. But
Correct, not yet.
Sounds like it's hopefully coming within the next, say, month. So until then, all that you can do is watch the Steam store. All right. Right. So Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, welcome to the topic of discussion. This is the part where we talk about, something unrelated to the first part. And this week we are talking about Super Mario 64. Yes, it is because we were inspired by the fact that Naka and Ogre are playing through the game currently. And
because sometimes inspiration is just that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Weird how that works.
And obviously Super Mario 64 doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, especially if you are, I'd say a certain age, but, Super Mario 64 has actually seen at 2 re-releases on the Switch, which is kind of insane when you think about it. Because, I know Nintendo presented the Super Mario 3D collection as this limited time event, and yes, you can't buy it digitally anymore, but here's the thing.
It was time limited. It wasn't manufactured in any kind of particularly limited quantity.
Yeah. It sold 8 million copies. There are a lot of copies still out in the wild.
Hell, I think my local
Nintendo
Walmart
knew
still
they
has
were going to sell a
new
lot
ones.
of these. So, yeah, it's a bit inconvenient to get the Super Mario 3D collection, but it's nowhere in the hundreds of dollars, or rather, you shouldn't be paying any sort of amount of 50 to 100 or whatever. Nothing like that.
Yeah, right now, if you're paying above the market retail price you're getting screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they still have a couple of copies at the local games and bookstore.
Yeah, my local Walmart still has a few in the case.
Yeah, like I said, this game is not rare.
At least not yet. Give it 20 years.
Yeah, Rare wouldn't start making games like this for at least a couple of years afterwards.
Get out.
And I'd say it's even with the re-release, as it were, on the Nintendo Switch Online, the N64 section, you should still seek out the 3D collection because I won't say it's problem free, but it's it's better than whatever emulation they're using for the Nintendo Switch Online service.
Yeah.
Also, the other ones were good, and you also actually physically own something.
Yes, which is handy. Point is, there are ways to play Super Mario 64 in the modern era. really the 3D Mario game that people would have a problem with is Super Mario Galaxy 2, because
For whatever reason.
yeah, for whatever reason, Nintendo left that one off the collection.
Doesn't it
Nobody
mostly
knows.
use the same engine and shit as Galaxy 1?
I think the levels are remapped.
Like, look, it's probably not due to technical problems, or because look, getting Super Mario Sunshine to work on the Switch took the most amount of work, because that wasn't in widescreen, and Super Mario Sunshine took advantage of the GameCube controller. Hint: the analog triggers.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, this version has there's some issues with that on the re-releases.
I'm not saying that they overcame them. I'm just saying they had to work around that. But this is not Sunshine. This is about 64, which, yes, hasn't aged well in certain regards. I'm watching Nakanogra's playthrough really does frame into this was a Nintendo.
The graphics are no longer cutting edge. The camera control, which was absolutely very revolutionary at the time, there is a reason they give you the conceit of, oh, there's a literal Lakitu filming it. This is one of the first games that actually gave you camera control besides like a 90-degree shift.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're still part of this, but I was going to say that.
You can be if you want to.
This is the first game that that they decided they needed a conceit because the third-person camera was so innovative that they decided that they had to make it a character in its own right. Kind of like how when Left 4 Dead came out, they did an AI director to say, yeah, somebody's making choices based on what you're doing. So yeah, this game still rocks socks. I never play it, but I like it.
Yeah, it's again it doesn't necessarily hold up as well now. But it's one of those things where when you do something revolutionary that then everyone rips off, it stops looking as revolutionary when you go back to it.
It's also because Nintendo didn't have quite the imagination needed to perfect camera controls. They thought that buttons would do the job, when it turns out that the real perfection was another stick. And it would be Sony.
Though it's easier to like do that between consoles, and in fairness, they put on the first console or the first stick.
Yeah, but what Nintendo really brought to the table here was the first analog stick. They were the ones who really thought moving in a 3D space was going to require a degree of control that you couldn't get with a D-pad.
Looking at you, Jumping Flash.
And they actually would prove this with their own remake. Because the Nintendo DS version of Super Mario 64 would almost be the definitive version of the game if it wasn't the fact that it was built for a system that doesn't have an analog anything. Like the closest is their fucking touchscreen, which isn't a real replacement for an analog nub, stick, circle pad, whatever you want to insert here. Now,
yeah, the N64 was mostly designed to use the C buttons for camera control, although in the rarely, if ever, used first-person shooter configuration of the controller where you hold the left and center prongs, presumably you would have had some camera control via aim control with your thumb on the stick, but
that is
again, that was a barely used form.
And I would say there were games that actually used that configuration, like the Turok games, for example. Turok was the first one that I remember using the C buttons for movement and the analog stick to look around. They were on the right path here, and GoldenEye actually does have a twin stick setting. Very awkward to use because the sticks are literally on different controllers, but it's there. You have to dig in the options, but it's there. But yeah, it's like Super Mario 64 was really the game that introduced analog movement to the world. And if you want to see how much of an issue this really was, just look at some of the contemporaries that came out around that time. The Jumping Flash series was mentioned, but you also got 1996. We've got the release of the original Crash Bandicoot. I'm not saying that's a bad game, but it's not much of a 3D platformer. It's it's basically a 2D platformer, but shifted on an axis, and and it's taking into account, like every PlayStation game released around that time, the D-pad. Bubsy 3D, had to work around this. Croc had to work around this. It's like really 3D platforms had to work around this until about 1998, 1999. That's really when I can remember DualShock or the dual analog sticks being fairly standard. But even then, they couldn't be standard unless you were Ape Escape.
Right.
It's worth talking about the genius optimization of this game too.
Yeah.
Like his face goes away whenever it's away from you. It turns into a super low poly face.
Yeah, some of the HD versions you can actually see it because the camera is wider.
Yeah, they like every single pixel they could save, they did. Like there's a lot of 2D happening that just appears to be 3D with billboarding and stuff like that. It really is a masterpiece of optimization.
Yep. It's not it's not the most graphically advanced 3D platformer, even on the N64. Like pretty much every Rare platformer that would come out after it would really trounce. A lot of that has to do with like the particular shading that they're using for Mario 64 here. It's using like simple garage shading, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, and it does not have many particularly detailed textures either.
Yeah,
because again, part of the thing with the N64 was a general lack of data space, and those are some of the ways that they saved it. That and reusing the stages a lot.
Yeah, but here was the trade-off here. It's got a it's got a consistently smooth frame rate for the most part.
Yeah.
Believe me, this was a problem on the N64, where hitting 20 FPS was a miracle in some games. Like from GoldenEye to Zelda to just so many N64 games. I remember having really bad performance, but you don't really get that with even the N64 version of Super Mario 64. Like the Mario face was actually a demonstration of what the N64 could do in its like most optimized setting.
Yeah, you can squash and stretch this face that has a lot of polygons.
And it's also running at 60 FPS. Granted, it's like they could only do that in a specific instance, but to do even that in 1996 was mind-blowing. Yeah. But, it's not just the technical specifications here. What Super Mario 64 really established was the template for 3D platformings for about at least 2 generations. I'd say even more.
Yes, amusingly, even on systems that don't have some of the restrictions that birthed them, like the going back into the same stage to get more things. It is also economical for development time, but the original purpose was just that the N64 couldn't have that many different stages.
No, it's like, you stack up any 3D game, I guess, until like the Galaxy games next to a 2D Mario game, and the amount of levels you were getting was far smaller. But that's because building 3D worlds is literally much bigger. But this is the game that established the collectathon ideology of platformers, and no, not everyone was happy about that. Granted, it was really rare who took those to extremes, but this is the game that established collect, the things to unlock the game.
And also collect a different set of things to unlock some of those things.
Mm-hmm. But it's not ridiculous like, even its own sequel, Super Mario Sunshine, where, it's not just collect the shine sprites, you'll collect the blue coins, which, ugh. Or, Donkey Kong 64, which is collect all of the things, and so on and so forth. But I think that is another reason why you don't see too many 3D platformers these days. It's because this style of gameplay not so much went out of style, but got incorporated into other genres. Like, you want to talk about continue on the legacy of collectathons, open world games. Looking at you, Ubisoft. Like, how many things do you have to collect in an Assassin's Creed game these days?
None. None of those things. When I'm Batman, I just figure out where the Riddler is. I don't bother checking down his clues.
Indeed. And on it goes. Anyway, yeah. Still, it's the game that everyone copied. And that is to say that there weren't flaws with the idea, but it definitely implemented them better than a lot of what actually came after, I would say, because it's strikingly non-linear. A lot of platformers forgot that you can, to properly account for how many items you would need to advance into another level.
Yeah, in Mario 64 and in Galaxy, but not so much in Galaxy 2, or not so much in Sunshine, you really don't actually have to... I think it's either 10 or 15 stars for the wing cap.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to even go into all of the stages to get enough collectibles to get to the end of the game.
Right. And once again...
And it does not take very much of the stars that are available at any given point.
No.
To be able to unlock the next thing of stars to be available. Like, it takes 1 star to unlock the second world of the 7 that are in Bob-omb Battlefield.
Yeah.
And then the next one takes 3, I think. By which point you will have, 21 stars available.
Like I said...
Slightly less than that, but...
a good example of the opposite is, once again, Super Mario Sunshine, where they really lock you in on getting the shine sprites. Because, for example, in order to open the final encounter, you need to beat all the Shadow Mario levels in a stage, which are usually like the 6th or 7th shine sprite. So you actually do have to play a lot of levels and a lot of each level to, get to the end. Whereas, Super Mario 64 here, it's like, you just need 70 stars. It doesn't matter which 70, where you got them from, you just need 70 stars. Like I said, there aren't a lot of other 3D platformers that would have that kind of loose adherence to collectibles. I won't say there was no wiggle room in, say, Banjo-Kazooie, but there was definitely less than Super Mario 64. Like, whether or not that was for the better or not, hard to say. And I suppose, other issues with the games are some of the levels were just not good. I think we can say that. Especially some of the later levels. It's not just
to increase the difficulty, they started doing things like taking away more of the floor.
Yeah. It's not
and
just that...
increasing way more moving platforms.
Okay, like the very last level, Rainbow Road. it's a bad level. But why is it a bad level? It's not just because it's challenging, because there isn't a lot of floor. It's because so much.
It's a very
level,
linear level. You can't really do what you want in it.
It's not just it's a linear level. It's a level you have to wait a lot of the time. I don't like. Yes, there are obstacles. There are things that you have to jump over. But so much of that level is also just you have to wait for the carpet to do its thing, to arrive to its destination. And that's just not as interesting as what other levels in this game were doing. Now, I mean, the clock tower as well is a pretty not good level in my estimation. And Wet Dry World, and a lot of the later levels are just, I don't think, as well designed as a lot of the earlier levels.
They have more complicated gimmicks, but how well they actually execute them is... Like, Wet Dry World has the thing where you can change the water level of the thing and change which level it starts at. TikTok clock you have comes at like 4 speeds depending on what the clock says when you enter. Tiny Huge Island has a Tiny Island and Huge Island depending on which painting you actually enter.
That being said, I think unequivocally, and I don't think this is uncontroversial either, the worst part of Super Mario 64 is probably what it tries to pass off as boss encounters. I mean, obviously Bowser here is probably the most interesting of the boss encounters, and yet, yes, there are other bosses. And I understand that, the King Babam boss battle isn't meant to be challenging or anything.
It's literally a tutorial for Bowser.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that the DS version, maybe not entirely corrected, but they definitely made the boss encounters better. Like, for example, King Babam actually will do things. Not a whole lot, but he will still attack you. Versus, he's just literally walking around and the worst he will do is throw you off the ledge in the original version.
I mean, it was like that in Mario too. I mean, like the original Mario games, he was.
Well, yeah,
he just kind of stood there.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing: Mario's boss encounters are pretty consistently bad, actually. Now, or in general, will be the weakest part of a Mario game.
There's a Cobra Kai style argument to be made from Bowser's point of view. That dude just grabbed my own axe. Came at me.
And on it goes. But we are running low on time here. So any final words to say about Super Mario 64?
Yeah, I'm not good at Super Mario 64. I was more of a Sonic kid for obvious reasons.
Haven't had a Nintendo since the Nintendo.
I played it a lot, but I did not do much in Rainbow Ride because,
Yeah.
It really is a lot of just waiting and not getting knocked off the flying carpet.
Yeah, I will say I got 120 stars a few times, but that isn't mainly out of love of the game. That was more, oh god, there was so little to play on the N64.
Yeah, it's like this was one of the last Mario games I played. I played this, and then like years later, I played New Super Mario Brothers Wii on just the regular Wii. So yeah, I have a lot of fun memories of this one. But yeah, like you said, there wasn't a lot out there at the time.
I'm not sure I've ever played this game.
rented an N64. Like when this game came out, I went to Blockbuster and I just literally rented a system, played this game to get it out, and then I was done. I enjoyed it, but I'm glad I didn't get a whole system for it.
God,
I did that for Evangelion.
That's how I first played the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they even let me rent D and Resident Evil, even though I don't think I was old enough to rent those. Lack standards.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that'll about do it for Super Mario 64, and that'll about do it for our installment of Fragments of Silicon here. The week ahead, no Friday show this week. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Mary Skelter 2, C14 Dating, Crazy Trucks, and Risen. So until then,
Actually,
I shall...
Real quick,
Go
Petty
ahead.
fan. I have one last thing for you because I forgotten to mention this earlier, and I can't leave without telling you this. My mom has you beat because my mom is #1 Petty fan. She has the license plate. She has the YouTube channel. She has the tattoo. She is president of the fan club. She is literally #1 Petty fan. So I knew I couldn't go without telling you that.
There can be only one.
I think on that note, we will say good gaming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
for
guys.
joining us.